Hi everyone, welcome to All Things Iceland, the place to learn about Icelandic history, culture, language, and nature. My name is Jules, and today I'm going to be talking about the very adorable Icelandic sheep and sharing with you 5 surprising facts about them. I have been fascinated, like many people around the world, about Icelandic sheep because there's just so many aspects of them that make them fascinating, but also I just think that in Iceland the sheep has been such an important part of the history. So I thought it would be nice to share with you some information that gives you a little bit more insight into the culture as well as this specific animal. So let's just jump right in to one of the 5 facts for today. And the first, which might be to me the most surprising when I was researching Icelandic sheep, is that up until the 1940s or so, Icelandic sheep milk was the main milk that people were consuming in the country. It was quite expensive to own a cow during those times, or up until the time when it switched over. So just naturally, I guess, because people in general, were drinking or have been drinking some type of animal's milk, it was mostly sheep's milk that you would find readily available in Iceland. And then that, of course, changed once some other things after World War II. So it's fascinating to know that the culture was based on that. And also, when you think about the fact that now when you go into a store, I don't drink animal milk. I am vegan and have been for the last 5 years, but I've never heard like my husband's family or friends that I have talk about consuming sheep's milk. So, which always makes me think that okay, well, this transition must have been very fast, but also one that really stayed with people. Maybe they prefer the taste of cow's milk over sheep's milk, or maybe it's just marketing. Who knows? Number 2 is that there are more sheep in Iceland than there are people that live here. So I'm specifically talking about those who reside. There's about 360,000 residents of Iceland, and there are somewhere around 400,000 sheep. The fascinating part to me is that at one point, I believe it was the height of the number of Icelandic sheep, was 1978, if I have that correct, and it was around 890,000 sheep. And back then, there were way less people than there are now that were living in the country. The number I'm talking about that's around 400,000 is according to statistics that were gathered in 2018. So of course this number can change. In recent years, it's been that the amount of Icelandic sheep has lowered because there's not as much demand for it. So it could end up lowering even more. Maybe one day there won't be as many Icelandic sheep as there are people, but at the moment, according to those numbers, there are. Number 3 is that it is common for an ewe, which is a female sheep, to have multiple lambs when she is giving birth. And lambing season is in May, which is now. So it will be that farmers who are involved in lambing season, which is really intense, by the way. And if you're curious, but also about lambs, sheep, everything about them, I did a podcast episode about that, and I'm gonna link that in the description box below so you can learn a lot more. But in terms of, for this specific fact, it is the case that there are multiple lambs born at one time. There could be twins, triplets, quadruplets, sextuplets. I mean, it's not uncommon. And researchers found that there's a specific gene that Icelandic sheep have. They named that gene Þoka after a sheep, after an ewe who had multiple lambs, and probably the one who they took the blood sample in order to find this gene. So I thought that's really interesting and also super cute when you see the little lambs with their moms and just kind of jumping around, learning how to walk almost immediately and just growing stronger every day. Number 4 is one that totally shocked me at first, only because I didn't understand it, but once it was explained, it makes a lot of sense. And that it is that Icelandic sheep have been bred in isolation for more than 1,000 years. So when settlers came over in the 9th century, they brought with them sheep, horses, whatever they could that maybe wasn't too heavy, just to have settler lifestyle, essentially. And in order to keep these specific animals safe, over the years, Iceland had decided they were not going to allow any other animals to be imported in. They also, if a sheep or a horse for that matter leaves the country, they're never allowed to come back. And it's not normal that an Icelandic sheep, I don't believe, leaves the country as often as an Icelandic horse does, but that's another video that I'm going to do about Icelandic horses because they are fascinating too. But in terms of Icelandic sheep, there was a time where the sheep farmers tried to crossbreed different types of sheep with Icelandic sheep. And it was a disaster. There was like disease problems and just issues in general. So they ended up having to cull all of those sheep, which essentially means that they had to kill them, that had been mixed. So the breed of Icelandic sheep has basically been purebred for all of this time, just because in order to decrease possibility of disease and just to keep other like animals safe, who, let's just say there was a disease that Icelandic sheep could get over if they had been from abroad and brought it to Iceland, but maybe it might affect something else in the ecosystem here. They decided to just cut that all out, leave it purebred, and that's what you see today, essentially. Even if though there are sheep with different colors and maybe patterns and things like that, there still are descendants of these purebred sheep that came more than 1,000 years ago. Number 5 is that during the summer in Iceland, you will find Icelandic sheep roaming around freely, like they are on like the ultimate Iceland summer vacation. That's what I call it, because they're just eating, chilling, crossing the road whenever they feel like it. And it's super important that you make sure not to hit an Icelandic sheep when you are driving the ring road. And just as a like precaution, if you do happen to see sheep on the side of the road, make sure to slow down, just because they'll be frightened potentially. But also, if you know that there's if you can see there's a mother on one side of the road and a lamb on the other, there's a good chance the lamb will try and run across the road to be with its mom without notice, of course. I mean, like, they're animals, they're not really looking to give you a signal. They're just gonna do whatever they feel is instinctual to them. So just be aware of that. It's really cool though, and also be aware that Icelandic sheep are not really familiar with people like that. So they of course know some farmers that handle them, but they aren't really used to people trying to come up and touch them. So more than likely, if you stop on the side of the road and try to go and pet an Icelandic sheep, they'll run away. They're not gonna be into it. So just let them be. You can enjoy them from afar. And just be careful when you're driving, because they have the right of way here in Iceland. I would love to know in the comments if you found any of these facts that are, so some of them, like I mentioned, were surprising to me. If you found any of them surprising or interesting, definitely let me know in the comments. If you're planning to come to Iceland, I would love to know. I know at the moment things are a bit up in the air because of the global pandemic, but it would be great, just to get an idea of your interests and if people who are watching this channel are looking forward to coming to Iceland in the future. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, as well as subscribe and hit the notification bell if you haven't already. Lastly, feel free to share this video with anyone that you think might find it interesting. Learning about Icelandic sheep has been really fun for me, and as I mentioned earlier in the video, I did a whole podcast episode dedicated to them, and there's so much more to learn about them that is fascinating and will give you some more insight on the culture before you visit, or if you're going to come back and visit Iceland, you'll have even more information if you check out that episode, which is linked in the description box below. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.